Good evening, everybody. This is Lyrata for the Institute for Global Transformation, and we are working still with the aspect of movement from emotional polarization to mental polarization. We spoke about 3 laws. We're going to be kind of picking apart one of those laws in its application in lives here and now. We're working still with the aspect of emotional, the transition from emotional to mental polarization. We are also looking today more deeply into its application in our lives through the cycles of life, okay? Which I think is going to be a very, very interesting for everyone. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about the aspect of incarnation and what happens cyclically within an incarnation. The intent of the soul to incarnate creates a whole motion of activity. It creates a question as to what has been achieved in the evolutionary process up until the point of disincarnation from the last life, and an evaluation and a blueprint of what needs to be focused on for the incoming incarnation. And included in that activity is who the parents will be, where they will be located in the world, what gifts and talents that person will bring into the planet to be used in that particular incarnation, and the weaknesses and lessons. As well as in this, as I'm talking about in this particular scenario today, as well as an awareness as to the length of time this incarnation will have. Okay. So in essence, in birth is the seed of death. Okay. So with that one statement alone, we can ponder, okay, for a while. And it also says to me the importance of a particular incarnation and what mark that individual or a group of individuals will make in a particular incarnation. What is their purpose? That's the seed that also comes through in an incarnation. Which today, and I put this out there, made me wonder about all of those souls that have transitioned in this Israeli-Palestinian ruckus. And the fact that it was already seeded into the plan of their life, that how long they were going to be here, how they were going to transition. It just made me realize that these particular souls that are leaving and have left as a result of this confrontation war that's going on had very, very strong purposes. It's almost like an acupuncture point in the planet, an accent to make sure, not to make sure, but that their lives, even in the chaos and the devastation that we're experiencing, their lives had a very important purpose, because it's raising up the shadow within not only the aspect of old form religion, but it's also raising up the shadow in terms of what they consider a legacy. The soul has a motivating impulse for a particular incarnation. That impulse is cyclical. It has a rhythm. The law of periodicity, as we spoke about last month, can be understood more easily as that law that governs the movement of the form in time and space. The movement of this law of periodicity results in activity. There are major and minor life cycles within an incarnation. As the soul comes into incarnation, its blueprint is as a result of the divine plan for, in this case, an individual, okay, and humanity at large. And as I said, because birth happens automatically, we know that death is seated in birth, and it is part of the cyclical rhythm. So every life serves a divine purpose in relation to the one life. That purpose always, always, always is a spiritual trajectory. That purpose is always about the growth of consciousness, and consciousness is equal to soul. Consciousness is equal to love. Consciousness is equal to wisdom. The soul plans from the end to the beginning. Did that ricochet in your brain? Like it did for me when I first heard it? The soul plans from the end to the beginning. Okay. So the conclusion of its plan is extremely important. Okay, and it results in the aspect of the ceasing of that life form, or death as we know it. And as a result, we know that death is predetermined. It's a predetermined fact in nature. And our job as beings becoming lighted in the planetary brain, because the planet is a being, we are beings on the planet. We are what is called the throat chakra of the planet, and we are also called the brain cells of the planetary logos. Can a blueprint for life be changed once a person has incarnated? The answer to the question is yes, absolutely. But I want to say this as part of that answer, because in saying yes, one would think that I'm saying that the original blueprint was not correct. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that yes, because within the how do you call it? Within the boundaries of a particular blueprint, there are frequencies, levels of frequency. Okay. Meaning one can, depending on their level of application and determination and willpower, okay, can, as the Christ did, or as Jesus or Yeshua did, okay, they can span all the frequencies at one time or come in at such a level that they're only humming at one particular frequency. And it could be a very high one, okay, which was the case of Yeshua. And he showed us the way to get through all of these different levels of initiation in one lifetime. Because humanity's trajectory, as I've said before, is always on a spiritual level. That is the divine plan for humanity, that we evolve spiritually as a group. Yes, within the frequency and the boundary of whatever that blueprint was, a person can rise to the occasion or just hum at a particular level and stay there. And, they just don't have the willpower and the gumption to do more, even though more is probably being requested by their soul. Okay. Gets us into this question about, not so much question, well, why do we fear death so much? Okay. And there are a number of reasons. We've not been educated. We don't know enough about the soul. We have been stuck in a particular form and belief systems for such a long period of time. Many of us, most of us of humanity at large, that we are still at that childish level of development that fears the unknown. Okay. As we move from an emotional polarization to a mental polarization, and as education, which at this point in time is being demolished as we know it, and the education for the new age comes online, then it's going to be about the education of the soul. Okay, that's what we have to look forward to for our children and ourselves or adults in the coming age. And we're getting it now. Yes, as we move forward, there'll be an understanding and an appreciation and a belief in the soul comes online for humanity at large. So will the science of death also, or the science of dying also come online, so that dying is approached with mental awareness rather than where we've been. Okay, emotional fear in most cases. And there'll be an ability for the consciousness to move out of the form in waking state willingly. So we as a group, as humanity is now, our life cycle is about 100 years, okay, a century. And within those cycles, there are intervals. And after those cycles, there are what are called interludes. periods of time where the soul takes a rest, so to speak. Something else happens. It's like almost being on pause, but not. Because as we know, if we're not conscious in one area, that just means that we're conscious someplace else. Doesn't mean that we're unconscious anywhere. If we're not conscious here, we're conscious someplace else. So within those cycles, yes, when we are out of incarnation, when we discarnate and we are in another dimension or other dimensions, then we usually, it's said, it can take somewhere in the vicinity of 170 or 200 to 300 years for us to incarnate again. And in that time, we're processing and we're integrating. We're processing and integrating. It's only in form, in these physical suits that we wear. It's only in form that we have the ability to progress, okay, to move, make movement, evolutionary movement. Within one life cycle, there are 3 major cycles and then 9 minor cycles. And this is what we're going to go through today. So the first major cycle is what we call that period of time from birth to 7 years of age. Okay, so in this major cycle, it's what is called a recapitulation. So let's just say the first major cycle, 3 major cycles, 9 minor cycles, and each of those major 3 have 3 minor drop downs. Okay, 3 minor cycles. In major cycles, it allows for the growth of the bodies. And when we say bodies, we're talking about the physical, the emotional, and the mental. Okay? I also like to include the spiritual. So, and in these times when we are in these major cycles, especially this first one that I'm going to go through, it's an aspect of what we call recapitulation, time for recapitulation of that which has gone before. So recapitulation it's a period of time when we get to, although we're here in a particular cycle, we get to kind of, it's almost like a parenthesis that goes backward, and we bring all of that experience to the present moment and we deal with it. Okay. And it might mean, and it does mean, especially with children in the first 14 years, that there are particular focuses in each of these groupings of years that I'll go through. And if parents knew this, it would help them understand their children better, hold space for them better, inform them better, guide them better. Okay. And that would benefit humanity at large, so that as a group en masse, we could be entering mental polarization with a totally different makeup, set of ingredients and things that are working within us in order for us to meet it with a high level of consciousness. Right now, humanity is really out picturing as adolescent the age of an adolescent, okay? 14 to 17 years old or something to that effect. Totally on the emotional level in most cases, okay? I'm not talking about the group of world servers, okay, which I count us amongst, regardless of where we are in the spectrum of our development and application. So, 3 minor cycles of this first major cycle, okay? And this first major cycle helps to stabilize consciousness. Okay, so the first cycle is the cycle of the physical body. Second, and it lasts 7 years. The second is the cycle of the emotional body, also lasting 7 years. And the third is the cycle of the mental body, lasting 7 years. So, first one, 1 to 7 years of age, is the physical body. Focus. Emotional body is from 7 to 14. The mental body, 14 to 21. In the first cycle, there's an aspect or symbolic aspect or experience that the individual had as they were going through what was equal to animal life. Okay, it's an aspect of the process of individualization, 0 to 7 years of age. There's a battle for survival, okay, against the odds of nature. In this period of time, we see a child that is developing will, self-centered primarily, and a focus on survival within their environment. During this time, certain karmic adjustments can be made. I think that a lot of that depends on, well, their level of evolution that they're bringing in, and also the guidance they're given, parental guidance they're given. During the second cycle, the emotional body cycle, that's from 7 to 14 years, this is a symbolic recapitulation of consciousness where people are learning through relating to other people and things in their environment. And through that relating, they find the need to adjust their consciousness accordingly to individuals and to society at large, especially if they go to school. They begin to relate to feeling above the physical existence and endurance, okay? So that the emotional experience becomes more important than the physical, which is where they were the first 7 years. The third cycle, 14 to 21, this is a recapitulation of consciousness. Again, it's symbolic, and it's, of course, the growth of the mind nature, growth of the mind, the mental aspect, and what they've achieved in that process so far. Okay? The individual learns to use their mind and to discipline their emotions. So they move from emotion to more of a mental control. They begin to assess things mentally. They can experience them emotionally, but they may work with them more mentally. This is achieved, by the way. A lot of this is achieved through book learning, through development of skills, and the emotional experience. Okay. So that tells us a lot. And then after those 7 to 14 years, there's a period of what we call interlude between two major activities. And those activities being, they begin to stabilize their growth that they've made during the 3 preceding cycles. So this is a time when everything that's gone on in the 3 in earlier cycles is somewhat digested and integrated. It's a period of integration, really. And during this time, aspects of ethical and moral standards or principles and attitudes will probably be more greatly highlighted as we go forward as a result of what's coming in the shift of education in the new age. It's changing. It's going to change dramatically. It's not going to be anymore about recitation or regurgitating back facts, memorization. It's going to be the education of the soul. And in that, there is a lot going on. Not only meditation, but an understanding of a person's type, an understanding that there are many types, and being able to identify types, and as a result, relate to them accordingly, because they have an understanding, and because of that understanding, they'll be able to have respect and greater tolerance for people. So we go through a period of interlude. In this interlude also, after that 21-year period, a certain level of responsibility is understood and accepted, okay? They begin to be prepared by that 28th year, because this interlude lasts 7 years. And the 28th year, if there are any astrologers amongst the group, we know as our first Saturn return. That period of time, which is like a fork in the road, so to speak, where we make a choice as to which way we're going, where it's an understanding of an evolutionary trajectory. Okay? So it's a very important time. And as I highlight these things, it's simply to realize that we have not heretofore been taught this information concertedly. You know, this information has been many times held in the halls of learning, okay, for those who are on the path. And while in a way it is still there, it is now being open to the group at large. And it's being packaged in a way that, depending on where one is, you can find that step you need, the rung of the ladder that you need accordingly. Okay, so we go through an interlude, age 28. And then the second major cycle begins. And in this cycle, it matures the consciousness more, And it's also a time where we begin to think in terms of service to within our environment. Okay. So again, here, three minor cycles. First one, and this is between the ages of 28 and 37. Here, a person's service to their immediate environment. Okay. And they're looking out to see how they can contribute and what they can contribute to their family at large, to those around them, so forth and so on. The second one is, again, an enlargement of that. And we're talking about what, 37 to 46. And the focus then, the sole focus then becomes service to the community, helping others in the larger community. And then from 46 to 55, the service is service to humanity. And as a result, in each one of these cycles, our sphere of influence grows wider. We've had cycles, minor cycles, 1, 2, and 3, took us to age 21, and then the interlude to 28. And now I've been discussing cycles 4, 5, and 6, which takes us from 28 to 55, breaking down in 7-year periods. So in that fourth cycle of service to the immediate environment, here a person is able to begin to smooth out their karma through their service. Karma with family, karma with associates, through whatever service activity they decide to work on. And within that cycle, there are, as we said, there's a growing and an increasing connection with the divine throughout all of them. The 28th year can be a very big year as far as that's concerned, because if one begins to understand that they are here for a greater purpose, and they begin to want to seek that purpose and work out that purpose, that is definitely the sign of one who is more soul connected. Okay. The indwelling soul and this overshadowing spiritual soul are beginning to work together, okay, which develops what's known as the divine marriage. So yes, there's in each of these cycles, there's a greater sense of soul contact. And because the soul's purpose is to magnetize and radiate and to serve humanity at large, not the individual, there's automatically a greater downflow of divine connection, awareness, direction, and purpose. Okay? So, the fifth cycle, again, turns their influence and focus outward to an extended field of service with their brothers in the wider community. And in doing so, any karma from past lifetimes and early in that lifetime, this lifetime, that whatever lifetime that has not been served can be purified, cleansed, repurposed, which is a beautiful thing. And what happens is they then can move once that personal karma is cleared, they can move from personal karma into service karma. Totally different kettle of fish. Okay. One you have to clean up. The other one, you're banking credit, so to speak. Okay. As you do the work, but you don't do the work in order to bank credit. That's a no-no. So during the sixth cycle, again, it's a wider expression. Service potential is expressed. Contribution to society is at its height. And the individual is conscious of service to the civilization at large. You see the difference? Local, wider group, humanity, civilization at large. Beautiful thing. And that brings us to a second interlude. Okay. So you've gone from 28 to 55, and now you have an interlude, another 7 years. Here, you're faced with a major decision. This is very interesting. So this second interlude, they're saying this interlude is longer, 9 years of interlude. And here you're faced with a major decision. Are you willing to go further? Okay. Or is one beginning to think of coming off the playing field, so to speak? Okay. That really happens in a big way in the early 70s. But we're kind of moving into this realm where the consciousness and the awareness and the mental focus begins to shift. You've already worked with civilization, or each with these, you've reached up to working with a wider, huge, wider sphere of influence. And you're looking at the need of your time and your relationship to the need of that time. Okay. You're deciding whether it's time for you to begin to relax your instrument as it begins to decline. Okay. Or, and this is a choice, or are you going to, do you have your willpower is so strong, your energy focus and your sense of mission is so strong that you are going to plow through that and create a whole new cycle? The choice is up to us. And it's in that blueprint, initial blueprint. Regardless of the choice that's made, it's an esoteric interlude in our lives. Activity is not necessarily expanded any longer. Though, if a person has been working all of the other periods, cycles, and interludes, okay, in a progressive way, one just takes it as a period of time in which to kind of reassess in order to move forward, okay, or maintain the function that you have been working on up until that period of time. Then we go through the third major cycle, okay? And this is the last of the cycles, and they're minor cycles. So the third cycle provides the incarnating consciousness with the opportunity to initiate a fresh new effort of service to humanity and the one life. I find this one really exciting. In either event, the instrument has entered its major cycle of decline, which affords the consciousness an unparalleled opportunity in the form of spiritual growth. We are permitted either to function with an ever greater freedom from the demands of the form nature. This particular major cycle also has 3 minor cycles, and I'll go through them. Cycle number 7, we're dealing with the cycle of the physical body. 64 to 73. In this cycle, our attention and our focus through the sensory aspects of our being kind of recede. I don't know if I like that word, but they change, okay? They're not as focused that way. The intensity is not as focused. The brain consciousness begins to gradually ceases to respond to emotional tides. So we're not triggered as much as we usually, or we have been in the past. We're not easily provoked. And also, the brain consciousness also is not as attentive to the physical environment, okay, as it was before. If not understood, if this is not known, that period of time that we go through, 64 to 73, can be misunderstood. It can be feared. It can be like a death knell in the consciousness of someone, okay? They may feel like they're slipping away and not understand why, especially if they're very identified with this meat suit that we're in. They may feel like they're dying. This misinterpretation and fear can cause illness, okay? Because of a misinterpretation, just check that out. Misinterpretation of what's going on can cause the illness and the rapid decline. And it also, as a result of that, can cause premature death. Okay. So it's also stated that senility is not something that is 100% something that humanity creates. It's not something that is the norm. Okay. Senility at this age or any age is a condition that's created by humanity. It's not natural either to the form or to the consciousness. That's a powerful statement right there. Okay? That tells us a lot. So, what's exciting to me about this particular cycle is that it tells us we are at choice. We decide. We're basically the ones that are sounding the bell for our own termination because of a belief system or a misinterpretation or a fear or a lack of will, power, or not having a reason to live. So from the exciting part is that we're a choice. If one has a passion for life, if one has a soul call that they're answering and totally connected to, if one has a desire to serve humanity in a bigger way, then that same period of time can be that peeling off point where we begin to move with a fresh energy into a whole new area. Okay? Doesn't have to be. It's up to us 100%. And again, even though I'm saying it doesn't have to be, I'm also equally saying when it's time, it's time. It's in the blueprint, one way or the other. So a new effort can be begun, a new effort of world service can happen. Or the person can say, it's time for me to walk off the field and close the gate behind him, so to speak. Okay? We're at choice. And even okay, and even if a person does decide to walk off that service playing field, so to speak, okay, it doesn't mean that that's the end of a life cycle. It might be a period of time for them to learn something new, study, meditate, become stronger inwardly. Yeah, move into a level of adeptship and mastery that they can take into the next incarnation, whenever that is. So the eighth cycle, we only have one more to go after the eighth. The eighth cycle is that period from 73 to 82. And it's working with the emotional body. Okay. And for the emotional nature, emotional body. Here, the emotional body begins to relax. Ambitions, desires fall away. Emotional tides become quiescent. The person is left free to function within the mind. They may still be of service to humanity. Their understanding of the wisdom, they become seasoned in their being with the wisdom and the energies of mastery and love and the synthesis of it all, that they become really important um, holders of energy within their environment and important for people to be able to connect with for greater wisdom and understanding. And that's part of your service. They may be called upon for advice and counsel. If they've not reached that high point in their evolutionary process, they may be given a time here to study, okay, to grow. Isn't that wonderful? That before we actually leave an incarnation, this is built in, time when we can really begin to study and grow. And how often do we see people just sitting? It just crossed my mind. Sitting in nursing homes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, if they did initiate something new, they may want to, at this point in time, um, bring it to a climax, you know? Um, and then there's the ninth cycle, which is the mental body, that period of time during the period from 82 to 91 years of age. And in this ninth cycle, the mental body declines, the incarnation, the soul, the consciousness rather, is freed from its demands. The form making aspect of life begins to cease. And the thought life becomes again quiescent. The emotions became quiescent. Now the thought life becomes quiescent. This is a time when the individual will want to meditate, and their ability to meditate in a very clear way at this point in time is improved because the thought life has become quiescent and we're no longer at the pull of a lot of the thought forms that we've held on to at this point in time in life. All of that kind of goes away. You're open, you're free. And meditation becomes, it's like probably direct connect, really. That person can function in the realm of the soul if they have properly taken advantage of all of the former uh, large cycles and minor cycles. So this is the schematic, and this is the backdrop of understanding an aspect of the movement needed to get from emotional polarization into mental, the cycles we have to go through within cycles. And while it might be for some very academic, I personally find it fascinating, and it helps to be able to relate to someone in our families, friends, whomever, with an understanding of this wisdom so that we, even especially for children, who are so misunderstood once they hit the terrible twos. So with this, we begin to understand what they're going through and that they're bringing whatever is unfinished business from a past reincarnation and things that are necessary to be reviewed in that period of time and brought to light so that the parents know what to work with and how to help them. And the child begins to get an understanding, a template of themselves on first, I guess the physical level, then the emotional, then the mental. I'd like to connect us very quickly, if that's possible, and have us go inside and do a brief meditation so that we begin to work with this and embody this or bring it into the deeper aspects of ourselves to mull over and ponder as we go through the next period of time. Let's take a deep breath. And relax our physical body. Paying particular attention to our stomach and diaphragm. Allowing the breath to find its own natural rhythm. Take another deep breath, and as you release it, sense your emotional body. That field around you. Where you experience your emotional currents. Experience this body as a pool of water. Examine the surface of the water. Note its vibration. And with your energy, smooth the surface of the water. See it becoming smooth and glassy. Reflecting the sun's light. And take a third deep breath. Moving into your mental body. Come awake, alert, aware. Bring the thoughts to stillness. And move your awareness about 3 inches beyond the forehead. To the Ajna center. Know that here you are master of your house. Here you are in the seat of the observer. And through the direction of your thought, bring through inhalation the energy of the physical up into your Ajna center. Take as many breaths as you need. Then bring the energy of the emotional body up into the Ajna center. And lastly, through the direction of your thought and your breath, bring your mental body into the Ajna center. Integrating the persona into a unit, receptive to soul impression. Through the direction of your thought. Above yet without location, connect with the energy of soul, your soul. And sound a silent Om. And while connected here, we connect with humanity at large. As we are connected with the world group of servers. As we seek that movement, that growth, that approach that leads through the lifetimes to mastery. That movement from emotional to mental polarization. That has no need for criticism. Judgment. Harm. Competition. Fear. We open ourselves up to be custodians of this planet. And agents of change within humanity. Feel, experience, sense what that means for your life. And absorb that energy. Drink it in, become one with it. And see the brain cells within all of humanity lighting up as a result of this wisdom that we cherish, study, apply, and share. And together, let's sound an Om. Om. And see this energy expanding out from us. And all lights radiating and emanating within humanity. In harmony, love, respect. And so it is in divine law and order. I thank you, everyone, for your time and for allowing me being here and allowing me to do this. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Much love to all of you and hope to see you again next month. Okay. And I give thanks to the Institute for Global Transformation, Marianne Miller, and everyone. It's a great group of people and a fantastic organization. Thank you, everybody.